Morning and welcome to the latest in the Moretti and a catch-up session. And today it is a catch-up with David Tuck, who is the CEO of Chaser. It's a and Chaser is a credit control piece of software that Northern Accountants are a huge advocate of and work very, very closely with Chaser, and we've got an excellent relationship. So we thought it was quite a nice follow on from last week's doom and gloom, where we talked to Martin Willock about all things insolvency. So what we thought we'd talk today was about ways to prevent getting into the insolvency position. So we invited David, and he very kindly has agreed to join us. He's a very busy man. He's a massively successful company, so we're very lucky to have him here today. So welcome, David. Thank you for joining us. And do you have your drink handy today?
I do. Conscious it's 9:30 in the morning, so for later I've got a bottle of our very own accounting themed craft ale, so Debtor Days, brewed in association with one of our users, Anspach and Hogday, who are an award-winning craft brewery in London. So yeah, that'll be my one for later.
Excellent. I've obviously got a Moretti set aside for later, but even I couldn't really face one at 9:30 in the morning, and also didn't think it would particularly give the right image for the day ahead. So brilliant. So David, thank you so much for joining us. It's brilliant to have you. So would you just like to give us a little bit of an introduction to you, a little bit of introduction to Chaser, and then we'll touch on maybe why you got into this sort of this game.
Sure. So like I said, my name's David Tuck. I'm the founder and CEO of Chaser. So Chaser is a credit control software and a considerate debt recovery service. I'm sure we'll talk more about that later.
Yeah.
And so yeah, we're very much kind of in the world to help SMEs get their invoices paid on time through using our software to politely, persistently chase up their customers to pay their invoices on time, all whilst preserving the human touch that's essential to getting those invoices paid. And then we're also a service for those businesses, for those more problematic customers and invoices, to be able to one-click seamlessly pass them to our considerate debt collection, debt recovery service, on a completely no-win, no-fee basis, effectively mediate in the process to get those invoices paid. We've been around for, we'll be 6 years old next month, since we launched in August 2014, and just really proud to work with so many like brilliant accounting bookkeeping firms, so many brilliant SMEs, and in particular yourselves at Northern Accountants. Both clients being able to benefit from using Chaser themselves, but also I know you do great work in terms of delivering credit control as a virtual service to clients, enabling them to benefit from kind of a nous and expertise that they wouldn't otherwise be able to access.
Excellent. And the recovery set, I mean, one of the new things you've launched is the recovery service, which I'd love to talk about a little bit later on. So just so we can understand, the transition between, because I think credit control and debt recovery is very much a mentality-based sort of, and an emotional-based sort of activity. So we'll touch on that a little bit later on. So, but just before we get into those sorts of things, why did you get into the credit control sphere then?
Sure. So, I mean, my background is I qualified as an accountant at the start of my career, then moved out into industry. I headed up a succession of SME finance teams, all of whom sold on payment terms. And I was lucky enough to get the chance to move into tech. I've always been entrepreneurial from a very young age, and fortunate enough for everything to come together in the same melting pot. At the right time. First kind of exposure in my last finance director job using cloud accounting, and seeing the opportunities that were available in terms of kind of automation and software to solve a problem that I'd experienced firsthand and had been frustrated at. There must be a better way, and looked around at the market, wasn't able to find it. And so we are very much a classic scratch your own itch story in that regard. And the rest, as they say, is history.
Fantastic. So no, and the rise of Chaser and the development of Chaser in such a short period of time has been quite phenomenal, and it's something I've enjoyed watching and being involved with especially more and more over the last few years. So it's brilliant to see. So okay, so I suppose we're in the midst of a global pandemic. COVID has decimated the business business community. How do you see that? You know, how do you see the impact of COVID on the business community as a whole? What have you seen?
Sure. So, and I think there's a real risk. So let's take it all the way back. About 75% of all businesses sell their goods and services on payment terms.
Yeah.
So there's 25% who, don't get me wrong, you know, the kind of retail space are very much impacted. But you know, our focus is the 75% who sell on payment terms. And what we've seen is I think there's a risk of falling into a kind of not almost one size fits all, but you know, everyone being affected in the same way. You know, risk of kind of overgeneralized thinking in this regard. So we put some great content out around what we call wartime credit control. So by wartime we mean you know, you're not at war with your customers, but this is carrying out credit control in a wartime environment. You know, wartime is an environment of, you know, destruction, right? And that's what a recession is. It's literally the destruction of economic activity. It's scarcity, and so that's the environment in which businesses are needing to carry out credit control now. And we break it down into categorizing your customers into three. So cash flow unaffected, cash flow constrained, cash flow frozen. Because there's a bunch of businesses out there who are, you know, actually, you know, at the very least not negatively impacted, and actually in some cases kind of, you know, boosted by the economic kind of you know, fallout from COVID. And so in those situations, it can not business as usual, but you can, you know, can be business as confident in terms of trading with them. And actually, you know, depending upon your situation as a business and the nature of what you sell as a good or service, there can be great opportunities for you to kind of, you know, fund your short-term cash flow by, for example, selling them an annual plan where previously you might have only sold them kind of a monthly subscription, because they're in a great financial position and it's a great opportunity for them because, you know, they love your product or service, and so, you know, are going to be happy to pay, you know, 12 months at the price of 11 or 10. That's a great deal for them, and that's a great way for you to kind of fund your near-term constraints compared to having to go out and look for whatever, you know, source of external financing to deal with the short-term challenges you might be making. So cash flow unaffected customers present a real like opportunity for you to kind of think differently about, you know, how you sell on payment terms to them. Cash flow, we then move on to your cash flow constrained, who, yes, okay, you know, they're suffering an adverse impact from, you know, the kind of you know, the COVID-induced recession, but they are very much still trading. And those are the ones where you need to be hot on it in terms of really understanding their business, doing things like asking for like management accounts, asking for visibility about their finances in a way that you never have before, as a kind of quid pro quo of talking about, you know, flexible payment arrangements. You're going to want to have your flexible payment arrangement sort of, you know, policy decided, but not just, you know, blanket offer those to anyone who asks. Prove that, you know, they're needed. You know, get the information to kind of, you know, satisfy yourself that, okay, here's the situation my customer's business is in. Your final ones are your kind of your cash flow frozen, where like literally there is no money in those businesses right now. You don't want to be selling any more to those customers right now. B, you want to be kind of, there's no point, you know, there's no point continuing to chase money that isn't there. Your chasing should be chasing to make sure that you've got visibility of what's happening in their business, so that the minute things change, you are top of the list in terms of getting your outstanding invoices paid. So that's quite a long-winded way of just saying like the importance of segmentation. Like previously, you know, we used to do a lot of stuff, and we used to see a lot of stuff with our users around, you know, you want to segment your good payers from your bad payers. And that's still relevant in terms of how you go about selling on payment terms to them, how you go about chasing. But I think there is a kind of, you know, there is a prior importance kind of segmentation that needs to happen now in terms of, like I say, that cash flow unaffected, cash flow constrained, cash flow frozen.
No, I mean, that's a whole different way of looking at things, and to be honest, not one that I'd particularly looked at myself. But what you say there makes absolute sense if you really think. Well, That's brilliant. So, I mean, one of the things that we did at Northern Accountants is we took when this struck, our sort of viewpoint was we've got to keep cash flowing in and out of the business as much as we possibly can. So we partnered with obviously people like yourselves and other supporting apps to put those into businesses to help them to enable that cash flow to keep going. So we put you in for the recoveries of money. We put Stripe in to collect monies, make it easy to be paid. We put Go Cardless in. We put float in for the planning and those sorts of things. So what that's allowed businesses to do is to keep business flowing through the business and also then move on to the projections. So I just while I was on that point, I just wanted to say thank you so much for yours and Chase's supporting that. You've been massive advocate for Northern Accountants and a huge support. So really thank you about that. So
proud to be a part of it.
No, yeah, it's brilliant, and it's strengthened our relationship, and it's forged some good things that have come out of it. So I'm really looking forward to the future with that. But so we've talked about this sort of the impact of COVID, and we talked about the three different stages. What do you feel? What's the importance of the credit control role within this wartime sort of mentality?
So I think it's funny, right? And you'll be better placed, I imagine, with this than me, Phil, to see. But one thing we've really identified with our users is credit control was an afterthought before. It was a sort of, oh yeah, that's something we do. Who does that again? And it's been vaulted up the priority list. If people are familiar with Maslow's hierarchy of needs, where you've got your kind of, basic physiological all the way up to self-actualization. And in a time of kind of scarcity, in a recession, everyone reverts back to that basic physiological, like, subsistence, survival, and that's where credit control lives. And so, in more sort of clement economic times, it's an afterthought. It's like, oh yeah, I'm sure we do that because it's a foundation of the kind of pyramid, but no one's really paying that much attention to it. Whereas now, and we're really seeing this with our users sort of saying, well, senior management are just like really kind of on top of us in terms of credit control in a way that they've never been before. So to answer that question in the largest sense, it has vaulted credit control in terms of its importance with the business because of where it sits as that base level need and the nature of the environment saying, okay, this is where the focus needs to be right now.
Yeah, absolutely. And this is going to sound like a really stupid question and a real obvious one, but I want people who are watching and listen to this to hear it from somebody else rather than listening to me bang on about it. Credit control, how important and what importance does it play in cash flow management?
Sure. So again, it's the bridge between profit and cash, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Profit, cool. Anyone, you can sell all you want, but if you don't get it paid, doesn't matter. And that's the role of credit control, to convert, if you're one of those 75% of businesses who sell on payment terms, to convert those sales into cash. So it couldn't be more important, because profit without cash is just vanity, and really dangerous vanity, right? Because it can give you the illusion of we're performing really well as a business, but if you don't get it in, then actually you're real risk of overextending yourselves and facing a liquidity crunch as a business, where you literally cannot cover your costs, you cannot kind of make payroll at the end of the month. So that's the paramount importance of credit control. Of, okay, I've chosen as a business to transact on payment terms. Credit control's responsibility is to make sure that money arrives when it's meant to arrive.
I love that, convert profit into cash. That's a great phrase. Clients and people I talk to will certainly be hearing that a lot more, I must admit. So yeah, I mean, and obviously having cash in the business is hugely important, like you say, to be able to plan for the future and make sure that you're able to make payroll and those kinds of things. But then it's just not also just about ensuring survival, is it? It's also about ensuring that the business is able to thrive. And I think a lot of people see credit control as, I've just got to do it just when I need to do it.
Yeah. So I mean, there's that element of it as well, just to pick up on that point, Phil. So in the first instance, it's to ensure that the cash is there for a business that sells on payment term to be able to cover the committed costs. But what you'll very often see are businesses who, have enough money coming in to cover their costs, and will have money tied up in, debtors on their balance sheet that are overdue. But that's not a problem for us because we're able to cover our costs. And so there's two sides to this coin. The first and the most important is always going to be get money in the door so that you can cover the costs that you've committed to.
Yeah.
So you can make payroll, you can make rent. But then there is the upside opportunity that I think is missed in so many cases by businesses of what would you do with an extra £100,000? And that can be the money, if your invoices all got paid on time, or even a decent chunk of them got paid nearer to on time, if you reduced your debtor days by X, so our average is a 16 debtor day reduction. That means if you turn over just £100,000 as a business, that's £4,400 of additional cash you've got in your bank to do whatever you want to as a business. And you get this bizarre paradox as a situation so often where people will have money tied up in overdue debtors, and they'll have debt funding that they are paying whatever interest rate for, and you don't realize that you can fund your business for free by getting your invoices paid on time, so that you reduce or even remove altogether your need for that, expensive, more expensive than free, because it's always going to be more expensive than free, debt funding.
Absolutely. Do you think that's a mentality issue though from us as a business community, especially within the British community? It's almost, we're very polite. We don't like to ask for. Well, some people are very polite. I don't think particularly I am, but do you think it's that sort of restraint of the British stiff upper lip, sort of too proud to ask for it mentality that has an impact on credit control?
I think that's a sort of second order catalyst, truth be told, Bill. I think the core of it is, if people are familiar with the Eisenhower matrix, the 2x2 quadrant of urgent versus important. And so, getting cash in to cover payroll, to cover rent is urgent and important. Getting your kind of overdue debtors in because of the investment opportunity that presents, what could you do with an additional £100,000, for example, if you reduce down your overdue receivables, but you're not in the urgent and important situation where you need to worry about, covering payroll with that money like tied up in overdue debtors. I think it's just a mindset thing of people there's no urgency to think. They just don't look at it as an opportunity that they need to pursue. They look at it as okay, well, I don't have anything to worry about here. And then I think that's definitely, compounded by the reticence to ask. But I think fundamentally, it's businesses don't have the right kind of relationship, if you will, with their overdue debtors. As they get it when it's a potential threat, and it's going to preclude their ability to make payroll, but they don't also see it as a potential opportunity to have more money to invest in growing their business. We got great story from one of our users, where their accountant brought in Chaser for them, reduced down their overdue debtors by, I forget, it's sort of 30 or 40,000 pounds. They were able to go off and hire a new salesperson with that, which they wouldn't have otherwise been able to do. And then that person has then grown their business. So it's it really is it's the kickstart of a virtuous circle, a flywheel, if you will, that can help that business grow. But I think a lot of businesses don't look at it that way, unfortunately. And so miss that opportunity.
Huge mindset shift. I think, like you said, people are very much in the surviving for today sort of mentality, and then the thriving later. And I think you see the truly successful entrepreneurs and the truly successful business owners who are going to make businesses that produce hundreds of thousands of pounds and massive profits and give them lifestyles that they want, rather than those that sometimes don't. I think that comes down to the fact because they are very much switched on to this investment mentality. It's not all about drawing big salaries now and living great lifestyles. It's all about building for the future and those sorts of things. So I do think it's a huge mentality shift that is needed within the business community to really kick on to become what everyone proclaims to want to be, which is a successful entrepreneur. But realistically, most people have a a good job, but a very, very challenging job, and probably not as rewarding as it should be for the amount of work that actually goes into it. So I think, like you say, there's a massive mentality shift that needs to do about it. So one of the other things we come up against a lot, again, is the negative perception around credit control. So, people are often quite scared, especially smaller business, especially owner managed business who might manage their internal accounting function themselves, worry about the impact it would have on with the relationship with their key client, and then subsequently the image that it could potentially project onto the company. What's your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, and I fully sympathise with with where people come from, but it's complete nonsense, right? It's complete nonsense. I draw the analogy of we've all been employed by someone else at some point in our lives.
Yeah.
In a situation where you didn't, and so we're employed and we have, well over 95%, well over 95%, monthly payroll gets paid at the end of the month. So we have our payday. Let's say it's the last working day of the month. So we've all been employed at some point. What would we do if last working day of the month came and went and we hadn't been paid?
Yeah.
What would we, how would we, would we go and ask our employer what was happening? Of course we would.
Yeah.
Of course we would. There would be no qualms about doing that whatsoever. It's like, okay, we've got an agreement. I've got a contract. The policy is this. I haven't been paid.
Yeah.
Why not? And that's no different to selling on payment terms.
Exactly.
It's, different parties, but we've got an agreement, 30 days. You haven't paid me. And but it's not, in that situation with employee to employer, it's not going and being unnecessarily aggressive. But of course you would go and ask. You say, well, look, actually it's, the last working day of the month has come and gone. I haven't been paid. Please tell me what's going on. And so, so we like to say our 3 Ps, polite, persistence, pays. You'd be polite. You'd be polite. You wouldn't be, unnecessarily inflammatory. But by virtue of the fact that you haven't been paid when everyone agreed you were meant to be paid, you'd be persistent. And lo and behold, it would pay. So I think I've always felt like that analog is really important and powerful because it's no different.
No, you're absolutely right. You're absolutely right. And like you, I've got massive empathy with business owners who have that sort of misconception about what the impact of credit control is. Historically, when I ran all our internal accounting function, I never chased my debt, and it was always end of the month. How do I pay my mortgage? What do I need to do? And those sorts of things. And just doing something so simple as I created a new email address of credit control at Northern Accountants, and then never signed the emails as Phil Ellaby. So it looked like the credit control team had changed and got nothing to do with me, although it was me behind the keyboard. So at some points I was having a conversation chasing the debt, and then to the client, and then having the conversation with the client saying how, you just got to help credit control out, they're doing their job and this, that, and the other. So it's all about, trying to retain that relationship. But realistically, I'm with you at 95. I know, if you think from my personality, I don't want to owe anybody any money. I want to pay my bills. So if I forget to pay my bills, I do want reminding. Sure. And I do want nudging. If something's gone amiss in the post, get it done, I'll get it paid. And I think most people are of that mentality that are business owners because they're in the same boat. Because ultimately, if someone's paying you, they're billing that someone else, they're paying somebody else. But realistically, it's the same sort of principle. So if they've got to pay you, someone else has got to pay them. And chances are what they're getting paid is more than what they're paying you. Otherwise, why would the service work? Yeah. And, they've got that same mentality. I need to be paid as well. So if I pay, then I want them to pay. So again, it works really, really well, I think, when people start to step back and go, you know what, this is a business transaction. It's not a personal transaction. You're not asking your sister for the 20 quid back that, you won't be able to feed the kids or anything like that. You are asking, you've got a contract and a deal that says, I will do this service for you and you will pay me on these sorts of days. I've honoured my side of the deal. Now it's time for you to honour yours. And like you say, that polite persistence.
If you do it like that, I defy, and again, it's when you strip it out, I defy anyone to get, why is anyone ever going to get angry with you about that? How's that ever going to damage the customer relationship? Because as long as you're polite, you can be persistent because it's money that's legitimately owed.
And I think that's a massively important point. The only time I can see anybody getting annoyed, and I must admit I get annoyed with this, is when people chase me for money that I've paid. That really annoys me, if I'm honest. When I've paid my bill and then someone sends me a bill because they haven't updated their accounting records, that really winds me up. And I think that's one of the beautiful things about Chaser, is because Chaser looks at the live data in Xero or QuickBooks or whatever. I mean, we only talk Xero because it's the only one that we really support. So it looks at the live process within Xero, and as long as those books are up to date, you've got complete assurance that you are chasing the right debt.
And we'll give you a heads up at least twice in the 24 hours before.
Exactly.
Here's what's going to be chased.
Ours goes out at 11 o'clock. I got a reminder last night and I got a reminder this morning just to jump onto Xero and just make sure, even if I just reconcile the income side of things, it just makes sure that people don't get chased for that. So for me, that's the only reason people will get annoyed. And to be honest, the first time that happens, nobody's bothered. It's like, I've paid that. We just check. Oh, sorry, I ain't updated my system. Hands up. If you chase the same debt again and it's been paid, then that's when people start to get annoyed. I genuinely don't believe that people get annoyed by being chased for debt, because realistically, they know that the debt is coming. They know that it's due to be paid, and 95% of people want to pay it. So it's just like you say, it's just doing that sort of thing. So no, I think, like I say, the perception and the image really needs breaking down, as does the mentality behind things. So one of the biggest resistances we get, and I can sit there and see it, is I've got good debtors who always pay. And I'm sat looking at their ledger, and there's stuff in 90 days, and there's loads of stuff in 60 days. It's like, no, they don't. They pay you enough to keep you quiet. How can we? What would you suggest that people could look at to kind of break down that misconception about how good their debtors are?
Sure. So I mean, that we do some great stuff. We sort of pioneered our credit control health scores, which can really, help expose just how well are you performing in terms of getting your invoices paid on time, and they can really start that conversation fantastically between you and your client to to really help them see there is a need, but also an opportunity here. Because typically, I think those clients who say that are going to be the ones who need the mindset shift of no, actually your credit control is not performing well. If it performed well, it would mean this for you in terms of cash. And then that's the way to frame it. What would you do with an additional 50,000, with an additional £100,000 in your business? Because by getting your credit control from where it is today in terms of the health score up to here, that's what we'd be talking about. Because I can't see a scenario where anyone who's answering in that way is having issues covering their costs, but it's that missed opportunity, which is huge.
Absolutely. And I know the health scores have been really pivotal as a measure for us on how much the impact that Chase has had on people's cash during the COVID period. Everybody who's adopting it has seen a reduction in their debtor days. So in the biggest global pandemic, for God knows how long, we have seen people getting paid faster. Now that's quite phenomenal, really, when you actually break it down and think about it. The people that are utilizing the software, your software Chaser, through us, are getting paid quicker than they were before. That's ridiculous. When you actually really think about it, it's ridiculous. That if you'd have said that to people at the start of the pandemic, they'd have gone, nah, I don't believe you. But we've now got categoric proof that these clients are benefiting that. So I think it's huge. It is huge. So, I mean, it really is testament to how good the software is. And if anybody hasn't seen the software, get one booked in with the team. So the latest thing you've kind of added now then, so we've got the credit control process. We've talked about the importance of it. We've talked about the mentality shift. We've talked about, breaking down the barriers of misconception. Everyone knows how the process works, and it's nicely touched and things like that. Well, actually, no, I don't think everybody will know about it. So do you just want to give us a very quick whistle-stop tour of how the Chaser system works, and then how it leads into your newest service that you're providing in terms of the recovery?
Sure. So I'll give you a very potted summary of the product. So the product connecting with your accounting system. So always got up-to-date information about which invoices haven't been paid. We touched on that earlier. And then enables you to automate the polite persistence that pays in chasing up customers to pay their invoices on time. So you need to craft the different emails that you want sent out at different points by reference to an invoice's due date. And then that schedule will run whilst the relevant invoice remains outstanding. Key thing for us is preserving the human touch, because that's so important in automation. The minute it starts to look and feel kind of like an automated email. People just don't pay attention to it. Credit control is an inherently human process, so it's got to feel like there's a human being on the other side. And so that's us doing things like where there's more than one invoice outstanding for the same customer at the same time, grouping it together in one email rather than sending separate ones at the same time on the same day, sending reflecting your regular email address, regular email signature. And that's the kind of the foundation of how Chaser works as a product, with then an intelligence platform, a customer relationship management system for all the communication that goes back and forth. So anyone involved in your credit control can see at the click of a button what's happening. How has that particular customer, particular invoice been chased? That there's no more routing through inbox or sent items to piece the picture back together.
Fantastic. So that's great, and what that does is give a consistent and regular and, like I said, polite, persistent sort of chasing sort of mentality, which is great. And again, it's automated, so the involvement of the business owner is literally none after setup. And we've been setting up with clients, and it probably takes them less than an hour to set up, to have a robust and consistent credit control. It seems a very, very valuable 1 hour spent, in my opinion. But you've just launched something new now, haven't you, on the back of the credit control? Because the credit control is great, and you can feed that into people for people like us for the virtual credit control, where outside agencies can effectively now run the credit control on your behalf. So again, if you don't have the team in place, you can basically outsource that sort of function. So you've got us in the background also chasing sort of debts, or just rather than just on email, because I know that's sometimes important, especially with the trickier debts. But you've now launched recovery for the debts that even the telephone calls can't collect. Do you want to talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, absolutely. So you captured it really well, Phil. Like, I've always looked at credit control kind of like a funnel. So you've got 100% of your invoices in at the top. About 80% we find can be successfully collected through email chasing alone. And then you've got, let's say another kind of 17, 18, 19% where you'll get them paid with a telephone call. But what we were finding was, more and more of our users coming to us and saying, hang on, what about the kind of the 1% that get to the very bottom? What do we do about those? Where we've literally kind of tried everything, and it hasn't worked. And so that's why we've launched Chaser Collections, because we looked around at the market and saw, traditional debt collection, just such a broken experience for everyone involved. For the customers who are being collected from, but also for the business that was passing their invoice to collections. And so, what we've done is launch Chaser Collections, which is, our team, our service, using the same software that we have at our disposal, but to be that mediator for the customer's invoices, where you're literally at your wit's end, and pass it to us. One click, so no more kind of back and forth in terms of admin, with a kind of debt collector. We've already got all of that information in Chaser to be able to, price, here's the percent of the invoice that we would need to take in order to collect it. And we'll then kind of pick it up and put in place our kind of, data informed collections process to go about getting it paid. So entirely no win, no fee, for that kind of mediation opportunity for those situations, which, it's not the norm, but it's, you get kind of those, situations where you're literally at your wit's end, where you're thinking, I've kind of run out of options of this. I'm really going to have to think about writing it off, or that's kind of my only option. I've just lost confidence. I'm going to get this paid. That's what Chaser Collections is here for.
Absolutely. And ultimately, if you've made that decision to write it off, there's absolutely no reason not to throw it over to guys like you to give a go, because you might take a percentage of it, but you'll still get something. Whereas historically, if you write it off, you'll get nothing. So it's an absolute no-brainer. And for the administrative burden of clicking a button, it's a walk in the park, isn't it? So I think it's a brilliant add-on to the Chaser service. I really, really do. So and we're already seeing some clients starting to move through into that and start to look at that sort of discussion there, which is fantastic. So which is great. So I'm sort of coming to the end of what I really want to talk about today, David. Did you have anything you wanted to talk about before I ask you what your biggest piece of advice to anybody watching this sort of session is, really?
No, not at all. That's been great, and yeah, just to echo like how fantastic it has been and continues to be to work with you and the team at Northern, and the way you really kind of go, yeah, you know, you've gone above and beyond to look for the opportunities to help clients with regards to like the just incredibly important but often kind of neglected process of credit control.
Brilliant, brilliant. Thank you. So, okay then, so just to wrap up then, what would your biggest piece of advice to be to any business owner sat there who isn't really taking credit control as serious as it should be, or maybe it's something we've said today that's twigged them and said, you know what should we do? What's your advice?
So my view would be that you know, if they're in that situation, they're thinking, okay, you know, maybe this is something I haven't given enough thought. They should be talking to you, right? They should be coming to you as an advisor to help steer them in the right direction for them. Like, you know, by all means, come and have a look at Tracy. You know, the 14-day free trial, great. You know, great sign up for us, and you know, products really kind of great and easy to use. But I think they'll find a lot of value in that conversation with you in terms of what's going to be the best fit for them. Is it them getting set up and using Chaser within their business themselves, or is it procuring virtual credit control as a service from you? And only by having that conversation, I think, with you as sort of trusted business advisor, are they going to be able to land on, you know, the full scale of options for them and be able to understand what the right one is.
Brilliant, Bruno. Well, that's very kind. I wasn't fishing for that, but I'll take it. So, I mean, that basically brings me to a close for the day. So, all that's left for me really to do is to say thank you to you again for taking the time out of your day. I know you're an extremely busy guy. I really appreciate it. The people watching this webinar will have no doubt got absolute massive value from your insights and your outtake on that. So thank you very much. It really is much appreciated.
Thank you.
Brilliant. So then. Brilliant. So that's all in closing is next time we're going to talk to Ian Hayes from BB's Financial Recovery. No, that's wrong. It's from BB's, not BB's. That's a restaurant that I use. I do apologise. So basically, we're going to talk about all things invoice finance and invoice factoring, which is a nice supporting mechanism to the credit control. So it seems a natural link in that. So we're looking forward to having a drink with Ian and go from there. So thank you very much for watching. Have a great day, and look forward to speaking to you all soon. Thank you, David, once again. Cheers.